I died during a lunch break, crossing the road while texting. 1 second, the world was noisy. The next, it was silent. And then, light. Blinding. Then gold-framed mirrors, silk sheets, and chandeliers. I was in the body of Evelyne Rosalind Ashford, the villainess from Ashes of a Crown, a character readers loathed. The countess who emotionally neglected her son, cheated on her husband, and was banished, dying bitter and alone. Except, now I was her. At breakfast, Lucien, 10 years old, sat stiffly beside me. He flinched when I reached for the teapot. "You're safe," I said softly. "Would you like sugar?" He blinked in confusion. "You never ask." "Well, I'm asking now." He accepted it silently. Didn't smile. But he drank it. And when he left the table, he turned back, just once. That tiny glance was enough to shatter me. I searched Evelyne's ornate chambers, fingers brushing past silks and pearls that felt too extravagant for the woman I now was. I needed to understand her, the woman whose life I'd inherited. The mother who ruined her family. At the bottom of a lacquered jewelry box, I found a small key. It clicked into the drawer of her writing desk with a soft but haunting finality. Inside was her diary. It was bound in deep red leather, its edges worn from use. I opened it slowly, like peeling back layers of rot beneath a polished floor. The first entry stopped me cold. Lucien cried again today over a bruised knee. Pathetic. He disgusts me. Why did I ever allow myself to be tied down with a son so soft? I covered my mouth. Another page. Callan comes home smelling of smoke and steel. Always the dutiful husband, never the lover I crave. He's too focused, too dull. I want fire, not frost. My chest tightened as bile rose in my throat. How could she? I turned page after page, lines of venom, cruelty, manipulation. She resented them both for daring to want her affection. She mocked Lucien's tears, scoffed at Callan's loyalty. There was no love. Only ego. Pride. Entitlement. They weren't family to her. They were burdens. Trophies she never deserved. A tear slipped down my cheek. Then another. "You heartless, blind fool," I whispered to the pages, voice shaking. "You had everything, everything. A son who needed you. A husband who tried. And you threw it away like it meant nothing." I clutched the diary to my chest and cried. Not for her. For the damage she'd done. For the innocence Lucien had lost. For the way Callan's eyes no longer softened when they looked at me. I burned that version of Evelyne in my heart that night. And in the quiet that followed, I made a vow. Lucien will never feel unwanted again. Not while I'm breathing. Callan Ashford, the man whose name I now shared, was colder than the marble beneath my slippers. Not by temperament alone, but by habit. A man who once reached for love with calloused hands now kept them locked in his pockets. He barely looked at me when we passed in the halls. Only polite nods, mechanical gestures. The distance between us wasn't measured in feet, it was years of damage. Of betrayal. Of silence. And I didn't blame him. I had read what the old Evelyne had done. How she humiliated him in public. How she belittled his values and mocked his affections behind his back. How she reduced love to a transaction, and family to an obligation. So I knocked gently on the door to his study, heart pounding. No answer. I opened it slowly. The scent of ink and old paper hit me first. He was hunched over maps, still in his uniform, sleeves rolled up, hair tousled from long hours of war strategy. You skipped lunch, I said, stepping inside with a silver tray. Again. He didn't look up. I've had enough interruptions today. Still, I placed the tea beside him. Chamomile. To help you rest. That got a reaction. His eyes flicked toward the cup, then toward me. You care now? He asked, tone clipped. How convenient. I didn't flinch. Yes, I said quietly. I do. He leaned back slowly, arms crossed. People don't change overnight, Evelyne. No, I agreed, meeting his gaze. But they can change, one day at a time. The silence between us was thick, fragile. I turned to leave. He didn't stop me. But he didn't dismiss me either. I closed the door behind me, unsure if anything I said had mattered. But the next night, when I passed his study again, the tray was gone. And the cup had been cleaned. And his chair? Turned slightly toward the door. A tiny invitation. A crack in the wall. The first sign that maybe, just maybe, he was watching me again. It rained for 2 days straight. Lucien wandered into the library, eyes curious. What are you reading? He asked. A story about a knight who saves a kingdom with kindness, I said. He came closer. Will you read it to me? I opened the book, patting the seat beside me. Of course. For the next hour, he listened quietly. Then, he rested his head on my shoulder and whispered, "No one's read to me since I was little." I stroked his hair. Then let's start again. Lucien fell from the stable fence, scraping his knee. He ran inside, calling, "Mother." I ran to him and knelt. Let me see. You're not angry? He sniffed. Never. Just worried. I cleaned the wound, kissed his forehead. I used to cry alone, he said quietly. Now you come. I hugged him tightly. I'll always come. Callan and I walked in the garden after dinner. Lucien smiles more, he noted. I've failed him so deeply, I whispered. But I'll never stop trying. Callan looked at me then, not with hate, not with suspicion, but something closer to hope. You're not the same woman I married, he murmured. I hope I'm better. He didn't answer. But his fingers brushed mine. And didn't pull away. Evelyne never celebrated Lucien's birthday. But I would. We transformed the greenhouse into a starry fairy tale. Lanterns, sweets, music. A carved wooden sword from Callan. A handmade storybook from me, titled, "The Little Knight Who Healed His Kingdom." Lucien's eyes filled with tears. I thought, you forgot again. I never will. He ran into our arms, sobbing. Thank you. I love you both. That night, he fell asleep curled between us on the couch. A fire broke out in the east wing. Lucien was trapped inside. I didn't think. I ran in, through smoke and chaos. Lucien! I screamed. He was under a table, coughing. Mama! I wrapped him in my cloak and carried him out. Outside, we collapsed on the grass. Callan dropped to his knees beside us, shaking. You could have died, he said hoarsely. I would've. For him. He grabbed my face and kissed me. Not out of desire, out of love. Relief. Truth. After the fire, Callan and I sat by the hearth, silent. He stared into the flames. You saved him, he said finally. Even after everything. I'm not her anymore. He looked at me, really looked. Then he kissed me again. This time gently. And whispered, then let's begin again. I began writing letters to the Evelyne who once lived in this body. You were angry, bitter, proud. You didn't know how to love. But I do. I won't waste the second chance you never got. I never sent them. I didn't need to. I just needed to remember how far we'd come. Lucien now burst into the drawing room after his lessons. Mother! I got praise today. Callan began bringing me flowers from his rides. Once, he said, they reminded me of your laugh. The house had music again. Smells of cinnamon and cocoa. No longer cold. It was a home. We took a trip to the lake. Lucien swam while Callan and I sat on a blanket. I think he's happy, I said. Callan smiled. He is. We both are. I reached for his hand. Thank you for not giving up on me. I never did, he said. I was just waiting for you to find us. Months later, we stood together in the garden. The painter captured us in golden light. Lucien in the middle, grinning. Callan with an arm around me. I looked at the boy who once flinched when I touched a teacup. At the man who once closed every door. And I thought. This isn't the ending the book wrote. It's better.